Hello and welcome to a brand new monthly series from the Full Force podcast, rather cleverly titled The Full Force Monthly, I thought so anyway, brought to you by Hoardar, the collector's app. In this regular series we get stuck into specific G.I. Joe related topics with different special guest hosts every single month. So who's joining me on this very first episode? Well, first up, we have Full Force Weekly co-host regular, Joe Declassified alum, and one half of the awesome Articulated Points YouTube channel, Patrick Notpicard Stewart. We are also joined by a very talented artist, Full Force Irregular, and now proud owner of an exclusive Ghostbusters EctoCooler box, which you can explain later, Adam, I ain't afraid of no ghosts, riches. Today we are getting stuck right into the rather open and can of wormy topic, the current state of the toy industry. Not too vague there, is it, lads? So let's get stuck in, shall we? What is it, Pat?
It's not the Full Force Weekly. It's the Full Force Monthly.
That'll do. You had me at it's not the Full Force Weekly. Right then, how's everyone doing? Adam, we haven't seen you for millennia, probably since like the Christmas special or something crazy like that. How are you doing?
Exhausted, busy. But it's the season of giving, and with this being a new series, I thought that I would give the Full Force Monthly's first episode some viewership numbers.
So mean. And Pat, how are you doing, pal?
Doing well as always.
As always, which is something to say on every single...
Not much more to add than that.
Good. That's the banter sorted. Now let's go on to the...
What about you? How are you doing?
Just the usual. Absolute usual. I do so many bursts and episodes that everybody knows my minute-to-minute daily life, I think. So, this is the same then. Just the same as always. I did, however, you might be able to see it in the background, finally get my Action Force The Battle Years book delivered. I got 2 of them. Unfortunately, the post decided to put them through a tumble dryer beforehand, so it is... I've put it in a distance so you can see how pretty it is from a distance, but there are some serious rips and tears, unfortunately, which is... It's sad, but it's a beautiful book.
They love me more, and I got my copy like a month ago, but if you'd like to see a mint condition one, I can hold it up for you.
Do that. Let's rub it in. Let's rub that right in. In fact, Pat also got his, and that's perfect. What is it? What did I do to upset the Lennon and Hickey team? Well, actually, probably lots. Probably all of the casual xenophobia that I always drop about Ireland.
The potato ratings,
Potatings. Just alone, the potatings alone got me a damaged set of books, but it's beautiful. The book itself is fantastic, and I've been like thumbing through it before I get to like really into it. And God, it's stunning, isn't it? I mean, you guys have already read it. Well, you've already got it. What are your thoughts?
I didn't think we're gonna have to do this on the record. No, it's a work of art. I tried to give them the hard sell at the end of the crowdfunding campaign and tell people that this is the first officially licensed Hasbro Action Force related item in 30 years, and this is the only print run it's getting. And if you don't get it, there's such a small number of people that did that. Not only will it be valuable, no one's going to want to sell it. So I mean, there's paying a premium, and then there's like you can't even get it if you have the money. And I only wish that more people had gotten it, because it's like in hand. I could go on and on about it, but it's like you had your chance. But it's amazing, I guess, is the short answer.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, Pat, what some of your kind of favorite kind of parts in the book? Because I know there's like the dios are incredible, aren't they?
Yeah, I was going to say the photography that I could just never accomplish myself. I think that we were talking about how it's amazing some of the poses that he got out of 5 points of articulation.
He makes 5 point of articulation figures look exceptional. Like, it's mind-blowing. I think that first page you turned to, the first page you turned to was that SAS team running around the Steel Crusher, wasn't it? And it was like, how has he got the guy running? How has he managed that? How?
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they're nice figures to look at to begin with. Action Force is always a nice toy line, but actually having them posed that well is amazing. And his level of photography is really really great.
Disgusting is what it is. I hate them both. No, it's an amazing book, incredible, and again, there's so much more in there that you we can't even really talk about all of it without doing a proper review on every page. But if you've got one, you know what we're talking about. Anyway, right, what are we here to talk about, lads? There's a few little topics we wanted to kind of get stuck into. But the main one is kind of like the overarching toy industry current state of affairs. And it's something that we've kind of been talking about off air, you know, in message groups to each other, and we've kind of been discussing things that have been going on. But I kind of wanted to like almost put it onto podcast wax, that thing. I wanted to kind of, I wanted to scratch it up, and I wanted to talk about some of the things we've been kind of getting into. And I know, Adam, we had a discussion not too long ago about this aspect of have like collecting, has it gotten out of hand? I mean, are we looking at a collector renaissance with all this choice, or is it too much? What are your thoughts?
I guess that depends. Are you independently wealthy? Do you have an unlimited amount of space? If you can answer those questions, yes, then renaissance. If you can't, you might have some issues right now.
That is so true. Pat, I guess it's a similar thing for you, because I mean, I have to agree with that. I think it's got to the point now where I want to buy everything, but you just have to kind of pick and choose a little bit.
It's gotten to be really difficult. I've had to make some really tough choices on some things. Just
Food.
The other half that's difficult is when it arrives. There's seems to be certain points where I will just get a bunch of things all in 1 month, and I don't have time to enjoy them. So then I think, well, maybe I'm spending way too much. And then another month happens where I really am not. 1 or 2 things may show up, but not a ton of stuff. But at the same time, it's difficult to look at the year as a whole and try to make it the right size for myself and feel that I'm not going a little bit too far out on buying too much. And as Adam said, not having space for things, because it's not just the budget to buy it. It's also, how much space do I have in my life to store this stuff forever?
It's getting ridiculous, actually. I had 3. Well, I had 1 classified shelf last year. That has now grown to 3 classified. Cubbies on one of those IKEA bookshelves. It's kind of like 4 because we've got some classified figures in another one, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I've got to the point where all the Cobra figures are kind of crushed into they're all just literally just like this next to each other. And that's just classified, which has been out for 2 years almost, and is already at a ridiculous amount of figures, considering, which is weird because it still feels like very much like a burgeoning kind of I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a massive line. But when you actually look at it, there's a lot of figures there.
I think as G.I. Joe collectors, we're used to, at least I was used to, gigantic waves, getting 8 and 9 figures at a time sometimes, and the number of figures isn't going to be as many in a larger toy line, I guess. That seems to be what's happening with classified.
Could you imagine 8 or 9 a wave of classified figures? Bloody hell.
It would just be too much. But are you keeping the boxes? That's the other thing that I'm kind of curious about with everybody, because there's almost a decision there, because some of the fact that they can be returned to their boxes and still look so nice in the original packaging makes it difficult to throw that away. What are you doing?
I'm keeping. It's and I mean, part of it is because you can put them back in the box, but also the artwork, the fact that and also the cruelest marketing trick of them all, the numbering, that sent me into a tizzy, because even under the impossible chance that I wouldn't want one of them, there's no way I can have a gap in the numbering. So,
And then it gets to the point where you've got the same multiple amount of numbers next to each other. So yeah, did you see that? Was it in Emily's office when they did? Was it 1027? And behind her was just this wall of numbers, and I was just sweating, oh my god. That's
when I see people that skipped on the movie figures or something. I'm like, do you not have the same OCD as the rest of us? How is that even possible?
Clearly they do not have the same OCD, because that is something as well that I've had to kind of keep up with. And I don't know. It just when I think of just G.I. Joe alone, right? The last couple of years, obviously with the reintroduction of the brand through Classified, right? We also got retro. We also got the movie. We got multiple merchandise things all over the place. And I will say right now, I got caught up in that. I got caught up in the merchandise wave, and I was like, yep, 2 of those, 9 of them. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I'll have more of that. Keep it coming. And I got to the point where now it's like, it's just Classified now. Because I literally cannot keep up. I financially can't keep up. Space-wise as well, that's something else that, you kind of take into consideration when we got the place. We got a storage kind of unit downstairs. It's already full. It's already packed. So like, it's earning its money, yeah, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, right, this has got to kind of come to a halt now. You got to be focused. And I think and I would class myself as a completist, as a bit of a brand grabber. Like if I see a badge, I'll get it most of the time. And that for someone like myself to actually have to go, enough is enough right now. Focus on 1 or 2 things and try and, get a grip on this. It's kind of saying something, isn't it?
I think part of what caused this for us was that when we would have these lulls, like the years where there was only the club or when there was literally nothing, a little thing would come up, like Burger King would do some random J. Joe promotion, or a t-shirt would show up at Walmart, and it was very easy in those moments to be like, a new thing, buy it! We'd all run out for it, but like...
I remember the t-shirt. I remember the Walmart t-shirt where and the hoodies, and we all ran out and got them, and then the next day we're all wearing them.
We all do, But like in those moments, that was easy to do because it was literally all there was. That 1 or 2 little offshoot peripheral thing was no big deal. And now when you've got figures coming from 6 different companies at 10 different scales, it's like, when I see the little flying helicopter at Five Below, I'm like, the logo is on the box and it's sucking me in, but like, there's no way. It's impossible to keep up with it all. Like, it's just too much.
It's impossible to keep up with it from a news standpoint. So when I'm doing the news bursts, I get people sending me things like, is this new? Is this new? And it's hard to kind of go like, I think I've seen that t-shirt before, or I think I've seen that product before, or, and you're kind of trying to work out, is this new? Is it like, because it's kind of gone straight to like a, like a dollar store or something. And you're kind of like, and then, like the Forever Clever stuff, when that appeared out of nowhere with a website and everything, I'm just like, what is going on here? Like it really just, and well, okay, here's something I will say. Has the Joe brand got so ridiculous recently that now we're seeing, and this is something I mentioned to you last night, Adam, where did that Mezco Firefly go? Where did that Halloween disguise kind of, like that Halloween costume license go? Where did all of these things that like you were expecting to see stuff from just aren't kind of like, they don't seem to be there anymore? How have we got to that point where it's just everyone's got the license and no one can really actually do anything with it because it's just so intense, so much?
It's hard to say. I mean, like, there's some brands that you would think would be totally exhausted, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, there's literally like 10 companies making toys right now, and somehow, seemingly, all of them are still doing pretty well. But I don't know if the G.I. Joe audience is just not used to that huge wave of product, or I don't know if some of the licensees expect to make a certain amount on it, and when they feel like the market's oversaturated, they don't bother. I don't know if maybe some of these things come as a package deal, like they wanted whatever, My Little Pony or Transformers, and as a result got an overall Hasbro license that allowed them to say, we're going to make everything, and then they just decided we don't need to make those after all. Like, I don't know what exactly is the cause of that stuff, but it's definitely, at least from my feel of the Joe fandom, it seems like it's a lot to take on, like more than people are used to.
It's more than I'm used to. And like, obviously back in the 80s and kind of 90s, we had, obviously a lot of vintage stuff, a lot of vintage merchandise. I mean, back in the UK even, like all the Action Force logos were on everything. You go to a Woolworths, going to like a WH Smith, you had comics, you had VHS tapes, you had soap, you had curtains, lampshades, everything. Like it was a huge rollout of stuff. But back then it didn't feel like too much. And that was the time when I wasn't, pouring it all in, had like disposable income, etc., because I was a child. My parents weren't like super well off, but we still managed to, I still managed to get toys and stuff. So they seem to have loads of it back then, but this right now seems to be like the most I've ever seen Joe get in terms of like merchandise.
I think the fundamental difference between now and then is back then I would have considered it brand awareness. Like as a kid, I never thought I was going to own all that stuff. There's no way I could have afforded to own it all. I didn't even want it all. But I think that when you knew that you could get a G.I. Joe bicycle and have a G.I. Joe Band-Aid and sleep under a G.I. Joe comforter, and, and eat G.I. Joe cereal, I think that it wasn't that you necessarily had all of these things. It's that you went to their friend's house and they did, and you went to the store and you saw it. And so, the hamster on the wheel in your mind just kept saying G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe. And, I think the difference between then and now is now we're actually trying to buy all of it, or at least keep up with all of it. And it's like, you didn't even try to do that. I mean, like, I have a friend that just was like randomly going through his childhood stuff and he pulled out a hat that had Voltar on it. And I was like, what is this? Like these random things that you've never even seen that aren't even documented on YoJoe. I mean, there must have been tens of thousands of like the most random little nothing, So I think now that we actually have a news cycle where you're actually trying to keep up and document all this stuff is part of what makes it seem so overwhelming.
The fact that Pat and I have so much to discuss every week as well, mate. Yeah. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes I look to some of the vintage merchandise things and think, well, what if there was a modern version of that? Like, how long would we discuss G.I. Joe roller skates?
Like 20, 30 minutes, easy. That'd be the whole episode. It'd be amazing. We'd have you demoing it near your shelving unit, like you did with the with the helicopter.
I would destroy everything if you put me in roller skates.
Okay, we'll make that happen next time. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think now it's that time where you're, like you say, like in this moment, we are trying to buy it all. We're trying to find it as well, because it's like that excitement of like, holy crap, it's like on a shelf. It's like in a store somewhere. It's in a, whether it be a dollar store or a Target or a Walmart or something. It's kind of like within reach a little bit. And yeah, we've had moments, haven't we, in the Joe fandom? I mean, for the most part, if you look at like the history of Joe toys over, since the 60s, there aren't like a lot of big gaps. There aren't like huge chunk of missing areas. More so, I think, wasn't like the most recent biggest gap, like, where just at the back end of the 50th, coming into the Declassified, wasn't it? I mean, that was one of the biggest chunks of time that we'd gone without G.I. Joe toys. I
think that for a casual that only knows about retail, there was a gap. But like, if you were keeping up with the Collectors Club and every little piece of offshoot merchandise, like, there's really never been a time where there wasn't anything.
Yeah, I guess. Like, I suppose even in that year, we had the G.I. Joe Walmart t-shirt and hoodie, didn't we? And Reebok sneakers as well, which I still wear.
Didn't we have a little bit of a gap, though, like recently? Because it feels like we did prior to like, Declassified stuff.
Yeah, so like
that was probably the first actual gap since 82, isn't it?
Well, I think that the final club stuff hit in like early 19, like January, February of 19, and Classified was like right around the start of the pandemic, right? So is that like
20
March, April of 20? So like maybe one solid year with no toys.
It felt like
no toys, no merchandise, no anything. Was that true?
I think that's about right. Yeah. There might have been like one like stupid little thing, like a little mini lunchbox filled with candy at Cracker Barrel that we all lost our minds for because we're crack addicts. But like other than that, I don't think there was anything.
Well, I'm pretty sure there was a variant World's Smallest in there, Pat, in that time period.
Something, yeah.
You're probably right.
I think in terms of like a toy line, though, we definitely, I think, went from the back end of, again, like the club, you have to kind of put in there because that was official merchandise. It was official product. Mm-hmm. So at the back end of the final 12 going into Classified, if we're talking retail, obviously it was the 50th to Classified, which was a bigger chunk of time. But you're right. If you throw the club in there, it fills that gap a little bit.
Well, and if you don't count 50th, which was a store exclusive, then you're going all the way back to Retaliation. So then you have a huge gap. I mean, then it's really like from like Walmart, Target, that's like an 8-year gap. So that's pretty sizable.
Yeah. And something else that I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about today, and that's one of the reasons I'm wearing this hat, is the once again it has risen from the ashes for the 17th time, only to probably go back down again. Toys R Us is back in the house. Guess who's back in the house? With a massive old neck and Leatherneck's pants all over his body. But Jeffrey's back. It's going to be in Macy's, select Macy's stores, 400 across the US. Is this the vehicle for Toys R Us to come back in a bigger way? Or, I mean, how are you seeing this? Are you seeing this as like... Because I'm only bringing this up because obviously we talk about Target and Walmart. Toys R Us was the biggest. Toys R Us was the one. And that was the one that we've all missed since it's sadly departed the earth kind of the way that we knew it. Is it coming back, and do you think it can?
I feel like the Macy's move would be the equivalent of parachuting out of the Hindenburg and landing on the Titanic, you know? I've
got to come up with some sort of Photoshop now of Jeffrey parachuting from one disaster to the next.
I get that every year the Thanksgiving Day Parade really raises the stock of Macy's in everyone's mind. It's a brand name, but like I live in one of the biggest 3 or 4 states in the United States. I'm in Florida. We have several major market cities: Miami, Tampa, Orlando. Like Macy's is not prominent here. Like I think the nearest Macy's to me is like an hour away. Like it's not a store that I really know anyone that goes to. Yeah. Like it's not, and also, what kind of footprint is this really going to have? I mean, how much, cubic space can they afford to allocate to toys? Like this won't even be a fraction of what a KB Toys would have been. This is going to be, honestly, this is like, if you've ever been to like a Burlington or, maybe even a Ross, like I think you're looking at that kind of footprint with Toys R Us signage. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater. Anything's better than nothing. But like, do I think that this is a good first step to relaunching what was at one time the biggest toy retailer in the world? Not exactly.
Have you got one near you, Pat?
I have a Macy's that's probably about half an hour away, and I only know that because of the news that Toys R Us was moving in. It feels like whenever the G.I. Joe retaliation was no longer going to be at retail, we didn't have G.I. Joe at retail, and we were getting these exclusive Joes, which actually happened a couple of times for Toys R Us. It feels like now, and that allowed us to cling on to G.I. Joe. Now it feels like we're getting that same micro-sized Toys R Us as an exclusive to some other store. And now we're clinging to Toys R Us itself. It's just one little micro thing to still hold on to. It doesn't really feel like it's going to be a full toy store at all. It seems like a really good way of letting the world know that Macy's is going to have a decent toy section.
Yeah.
If somebody told me Macy's going to have toys, but Macy's has Toys R Us, oh, okay, maybe I'll go into a Macy's to look at their toys.
Do we know the details of whether they're doing the true kids brands kind of thing? Because that was the thing when they first one of their 6 comebacks. Didn't they attempt to just do a true kids brand kind of approach?
You mean like the experiential concept?
Yeah. There was like a pop-up thing in some stores, wasn't there? There was that.
These are the 2 they weren't freestanding, they were in malls. There was one in New Jersey and one in Texas. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that was another comeback. No, they were going to do little pop-up segments around Christmas in certain like grocery stores. This is how ridiculous it is. It was like Toys R Us died, and then it was just like,
which comeback are you talking about? Which comeback are you talking about? Is this the one that's at my house? Because I have Toys R Us stuff here.
And then the shopping cart into frame if you'd like.
And all our Canadian listeners are just going, "What's he talking about? They're right here. I'm in one now as I'm listening to this, buying toys. Screw you." No, I'm kidding. I love our Canadian listeners. I hate our American listeners. What? No, I'm kidding. I love all of our listeners and viewers. Ridiculous as it may sound, there was going to be a True Kids brands pop-up little things in like grocery stores. Like, was it not Kroger's? Was it Kroger's?
Maybe. I totally had forgotten about that until you said that. I remember there was like a couple of photos that emerged online that like around Christmas time when you'd see like it's like a pop-up box that just houses like 200 rolls of gift wrap. It was literally like that box with Jeffrey's face on it. They just had like some crap strewn about it. That was just like, here it is, Jeffrey, buy it. Like.
Yes, and then obviously the one you're talking about is just as the pandemic hit. It's like, hey guys, we're back. We're starting these new come in interactive in like certain places, kind of Toys R Us. It's going to be like a different experience. COVID hits, shut down, didn't get off the ground. They got obviously zero footfall because of COVID, and it died on its butt. So this is like, seriously, probably maybe the third or fourth, I want to say, kind of comeback that we've had from Toys R Us. Is it just one of those things that's just not willing to die?
I hope not. I mean, I feel like if they could just get it right, I'd be more than happy to have it back. I think that I was looking at so Kmart at the end of this year will only have 6 locations left in the United States. It's a very similar story to Toys R Us in that regard, because Kmart is thriving in Australia, but under same name, different ownership, whatever.
Yeah,
but
that just reminds me of tearing one off for Kmart, doesn't it, Pat? Do you remember that? During your Joe Declassified panel? I did a t-shirt design with tearing one off at Kmart on it, and the K had the little tear effect on it. Do you remember that?
I do vaguely remember that, yeah.
I thought that was funny at the time. Clearly, it wasn't, because Pat doesn't even remember it. Sorry, Adam, carry on.
No, but I was just saying though that I think sometimes it's kind of like the fast food model. In order to hit the pricing that they want to have, you need to have a big enough footprint with enough locations that you can get wholesale discounts and that it's easy to make delivery routes. And so I've kind of contemplated for a long time, would Toys R Us's current assets or whatever not be better utilized to just open, say, 6 stores that are like the size of a GameStop in major market cities and just focus on that and eliminate things that are not very special to them. So get rid of Babies R Us, you can get that anywhere. Get rid of video games, you can get that elsewhere. And just really hone in on the stuff that is very Toys R Us specific. But I don't know that they could hit the kind of margins they would need. I don't know if they'd get the foot traffic they need. That's the one thing that I feel like none of us really have a good enough grasp on, is what kind of logistics it takes to operate a store of that magnitude and get the numbers they want to be price competitive. But I keep hoping that one day they'll try something like that, even if it was one, gigantic superstore, like a Times Square kind of situation. Just see if they could make that work. FAO Schwartz existed as one location for decades, and it was a historic landmark practically. So I almost feel like doing what they're doing now, if anything, is diluting the brand name as opposed to helping to relaunch it. I feel like if I was them, I would rather have the perception of whatever in Dallas, Texas, the biggest toy store in the world exists, and just have that be that one landmark that people want to make a pilgrimage to, as opposed to did you hear Macy's has a shoe rack full of toys,
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing though to think, what do they need to do in order to call it a success? Because in the world today, maybe having a brick and mortar toy store in every town isn't really all that feasible. So what would the future of Toys R Us really be for us to call it a success? I think that in our minds that's the only thing that we really want. We want that experience of being able to go into a toy store that isn't just Walmart or something that has a bunch of things. But I mean, really, what were they doing to keep afloat before things went really bad enough that they had to close? It seemed like throughout most of the year, the only people that I would see in there was somebody shopping for a kid's birthday, which only comes once a year, a collector buying things that either were exclusive to the store or that Walmart and Target didn't carry, or Christmas. Those were the only things that were keeping Toys R Us around. And they were doing a good job of having events. There would be a lot of Lego events that would try to get people in there on a semi-regular basis. But all those efforts seem to be not gravy for them, but the only thing that was keeping them around, which back in the 80s, I don't really remember any events like that they even had to do, because they were just constantly busy.
The event was going there, wasn't it? It was you was experiencing that incredible feeling. And it's vividly burned into my memory. One of the first ones I went in was in Birmingham in the Midlands in the United Kingdom when we were visiting my grandparents. And I remember crossing the, like, it's vividly burnt into my brain to the point where that is one of the only memories that shines as bright, you know, around other stuff that's just kind of faded away. And, you know, I'm 41 now, so they're going. But we cross the road, we go into this amazing toy store, and I just remember just like my mouth was open. I'm just like looking up at all of this color, all of these toys, everything I've ever dreamed of as a child is just around me. And I remember getting, like, I think it was more of a mission for my mum and dad and my nan and granddad to get me Christmas and birthday stuff. So, like, I did come away with some things, but it was like, you know, going in there and just being like, wow. And, you know, it's like burned in there, and that is I'm pretty sure that's the one memory that's never going anywhere. That'll be on my dying day. That's where I'll be, in that Toys R Us. Matt Tracker. I see I see a mask vehicle. Yeah, it was. I remember mask. I'm like, Spider-Man was big at the time. I remember there was a Spider-Man dress-up set that my granddad was going to get me, and I said, no, I'll make my own. I actually said, no, don't buy it for me. I'll make my own. What the kind of child was I? Some weird kid turning away awesome gifts. But
you
yeah,
couldn't your own math toys. You figured you had to put the priorities in order.
Exactly. Do you guys remember your first times? And we're talking with Jeffrey, not with other scenarios.
I don't know that I have a first memory. They're all the same for me. Like I have definitely like specifically good ones. Like I remember going to the dentist one time and then getting to pick from a wall of Sky Patrol for the first time. And,
I thought you were going to say get to pick from the wall of how I want my teeth whitened.
I'll have my lily. No, no. I remember, you know, I was such a good boy after we got to go, and you know, I got skydived that day. I mean, I remember things like that. Or
brilliant.
I mean, another memory for sure was like, I wanted Sabretooth so bad from X-Men. Couldn't find him. He's nowhere. We ended up getting him in a comic book store for $8, which at the time was like, I don't know, the cost of 3 figures. And then I went to a Toys R Us with my cousin, and he's like, I want Sabretooth. He's like, oh, you'll never find him. And they had so many hundreds of pegs full of figures. He found one. I found one. I was like, what? You know, like that was the magic of Toys R Us, was they just had so much back stock. Like, I mean, I got into G.I. Joe in probably 89, 90, and you could still easily find a figure from 87.
Yeah. Big time. Which
I know now everyone would cry peg warming, but back then that was like the greatest thing ever, that stuff was still around to find. But
one of my in like, again, fused memories that's never going anywhere, visiting the States as a kid and just seeing like 2 aisles worth, well, you know, 1 aisle but 2 racks worth of just G.I. Joe across all of it. And it was just mind-blowing. And I remember like version 2 Storm Shadow was in that lot because he was like hanging around from the previous year, just hanging around. How the hell does that figure, you know, peg warm? I mean, I've got a feeling it was probably more to do with them then put him out having got another like wave of him, because it wasn't just cut off after that year, was it? They would have bought more cases in. So it was probably more likely that. But it was thick, and it was just a wall of that black card with then obviously, you know, all of a sudden there'll be like an Iron Grenadier, Tiger Force card back, and I'd just be like, what is this? I've never seen this amount of Action Force before in my life. And it was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, my first Toys R Us experience was the grand opening. I was probably about 12 before
you were
there
26?
was a Toys R Us in the area.
26.
I was 26 years old. No, I think I was 11 or 12. Probably 11, because it would have been early 87 whenever we had Toys R Us move into the area.
Quick math.
There were actually... What?
Sorry, early 87, you were 11. Got it. Just doing some quick maths of how old you are.
Oh, yeah. I'm not exactly young anymore. But yeah, 2 of them opened up in the cities that we would kind of travel to, because I lived in the country. You had to travel half an hour to get to school, probably 45 minutes at least.
That's not worth it. That's not worth it, is it? 30 minutes to get to school. That is not worth the journey.
Yeah, so I remember Toys R Us opening, and I think it was Michelangelo or Raphael somebody was dressed up as. They had like a big grand opening, and they had all these characters showing up. And my brother was very small and into turtles, so it was something we were guessing.
Sorry, I thought you meant the Renaissance artists were dressed up as somebody. I thought that was aging you a little bit older as well, then, wasn't it? When Michelangelo was there, Raphael was there.
Nice. The hair is a little gray. Maybe I should work on that. It's more gray in the front. I guarantee that you only see this part of me on camera.
Mate,
back here, it's all full color.
It's distinguished. You're like our You're like our Magneto. You're like our Reed Richards. That's who you are.
It's like reverse Jay Leno. He's got the one black strip in the front, gray everything.
Shattered glass Jay Leno.
Well, I don't have many working cars, so I guess that that holds true.
Jay Leno, fun fact, I saw an interview with Sergeant Slaughter recently where he said that he saw Jay Leno sign something with the big chin, and he asked Jay if he could put a sergeant's hat on that and steal it. So if you ever see the little smiley face he draws, that was taken from Jay Leno.
Nice. I've never seen his signature before. You've got a pretty cool signature from the Sarge, haven't you, from back in the day, Adam?
I do. I've only told that story 800 times, yeah. But I can tell it 801 if you'd like.
Do it. Go on, just do it anyway, because I think I mentioned it the other day on one of our episodes.
Yeah, so obviously grew up an obsessive fan of G.I. Joe and wrestling. My mom was out to dinner one night and spotted him and 3 other wrestlers at a restaurant, and obviously knew who he was, because how could you not? He's, a giant with a huge chin. So she approached him and asked if he would sign something for her kid, and told him what a big fan I was, and he said, "Oh no, give me your address and I'll send him something." And she said, "Yeah, sure." So she didn't tell me, and then like a week later, I got this package in the mail from him with an official '87 movie G.I. Joe 8x10 with this long letter written on it, and so
unreal. That is so
pretty
unreal.
Awesome.
I bet were you quite sad that you weren't at the dinner at that moment?
Well, I mean, yeah.
You've got to meet him.
It's only been on the paper for 30 years.
You've got to meet him a few times since, right?
I've met him, yeah, but it took a long time though. Like you would have thought, like given how many wrestling events and stuff, that I would have, crossed paths with him a million times over. I didn't meet him for the first time until 2016.
Wow.
Or 17 actually.
So he remembered instantly, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. No. No, I met him at WrestleMania 34, I think, was the first time, and again at Joe Fest. But yeah, I mean, I still have the same photo hanging up on my wall that I had when I was 6 years old or whatever.
Brilliant. Have you ever met Sarge, Pat?
Yeah, at Joe Fest. I actually met him whenever he was at JoeCon. Multiple times he was at JoeCon, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw him at JoeCon. I definitely saw him at Joe Fest. Really nice guy, really cool, and like friendly and shakes your hand. And I've got a great picture of him and Kate meeting. Kate dressed as the Sarge as well. Absolutely mind blowing. Yeah, I'm still surprised she went ahead and did the cosplay of my fetish, but that's what it it is. What it is, right?
I can only imagine what he thought seeing that. That probably gave him all kinds of confused feelings.
He was all over the place. He was like, wait, yeah. What? Who? What? When? What? Shattered glass? What? Well, okay. Coming back to the kind of like the topic, not that we've really had a topic necessarily, but in terms of the toy industry or the climate at the moment for toys and the industry as a whole, do you see it as being like healthy, or do you think like with most things, COVID has obviously had a massive effect on it, as it has with a lot of industries at the moment? But do you think the toy industry is in a good place? Or do you think it's almost like, I don't know, like it must be in some sort of good position because we're getting so much at the moment. But I mean, what are your thoughts, Pat?
I'm going to go with yes. Mainly because one of the things that I have wondered about for a long time, because we've watched the age that kids kind of stop buying toys get younger and younger and younger over the years, largely because of video games. That's been the topic of discussion for years, but it's been the topic of discussion for years. So those kids who got out of toys at a very young age, my question always was, well, what happens whenever they become adults? Will they do what we did and start buying all kinds of higher end toys and other things that make us, to some degree, there's nostalgia about that. I have a whole thing about nostalgia that I go into, and I don't want to go off on a tangent right now. But will those kids get into that kind of thing later? And I think that the answer is yes, that the age of people buying toys has shifted the toy industry a lot, that a long time ago in the 80s, it wasn't like Hasbro was cranking out things for adult collectors, but over time that has changed, that they are targeting some of the adult collectors, and they are targeting some of those people who were kids that may have gotten out of toys at the age of 6 or 7, because there are a lot of things that were various properties that they were into. I mean, look at how well the Lightning collection is doing. I think that's probably the last era of kids super into toys. But I think that there will still be a solid toy industry. It's just changed from what we knew in the 80s. And like we were talking about Toys R Us, if our metric of saying it's successful is making sure that it's exactly as it was 30 or 40 years ago, maybe that's not really a fair metric. Is it healthy? Is it alive? Yeah, it's doing well. They're making a lot of money. So, and there's a lot of smaller companies popping up. So there has to be space for them in that market.
Yeah, I agree with everything Pat said. I mean, I remember distinctly about 10 years ago, I was in a Hasbro meeting and they used the phrase, kids are getting older, younger, and that always stuck with me. But I was like, I don't know what you do about that. And like, is the toy industry doing well? Well, I mean, define toy. Do we mean something that a child plays with, or do we mean these literal, like, museum quality works of art that we're collecting that just so happen to be made out of plastic? I mean, it's a very difficult. I mean, a huge portion of even Toys R Us's real estate in their final years was devoted to NECA and McFarlane and Super 7, and it literally said collector zone. So it's like, is that a toy? Do video games count as toys? I mean, so to classify the toy industry as healthy is difficult. I mean, are they making the dollars they made before or more so? Yes, but is that coming at the expense of higher end, more expensive collectibles with a shrinking audience that's just paying more? Like if we talked about this with comic books recently, like if the sales numbers are up, but the sales numbers are made of 1/3 of the people that are buying every variant cover, is the industry healthy? And that's kind of, I don't know, it's going to be the endless debate about toys. I mean, you'll know toys aren't healthy when they cease to make record profits every year, but are they really healthy? I don't know. I mean, and we all, I think the three of us obviously operate in such a bubble of toy collectors that it's so insular, and we talk about toys and we obsess over toys all day, every day, that it's hard to really say, like, is it doing great? I don't know, but like, I was in a Walmart earlier today and I saw a guy that was probably about our age that, clearly wasn't like a hardcore collector, but I guess he was with his wife or girlfriend or something, and he said, "Oh, I have to buy these. I just have to. You have to understand. These are the original Ninja Turtles." And he's holding the Playmates reissues. And I'm thinking, dude, these figures have been reissued like 20 times. But like the joy on this guy's face, like I couldn't help but smile under my mask while watching this, thinking that, like, man, this guy is getting to recapture a little piece of his childhood. So it's like, maybe for every kid that stops playing, there's one person like that just rediscovered it randomly that's going to get sucked down the rabbit hole now. So I would like to think it's healthy, but there's so many pieces to that. It's such a loaded question.
That's what I do on the Full Force. All I do is just load the question gun up and fire it at you. Sorry, the blaster. I load the question blaster and I fire.
The question boomstick.
So you again, hugely good points, and obviously you make very good points there about how it's kind of changed since we were kids too, and how, like, that comment you mentioned there about kids get older, younger, like, that is so true. When you think because I've obviously kind of as I've gotten older, I've worked as a teacher, I've done all that kind of stuff, and I've seen kids of an age where I was that age. I was so immature. I still am, technically, but I was so immature at that age, and they are having to deal with, like, also, I mean, and I'm not saying that kids didn't have to, certain kids didn't have to deal with that when they were growing up, but, I was a very fortunate child. But, like, I kind of think, wow, like, they have had to grow up a bit quicker, like, and also that thing of, video games is something you mentioned. That's something that's kind of changed the way that kids play with, or kids enjoy their childhood. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's changed a lot about that kind of whole toy landscape. And you're totally right. We've literally been, as kids, had these toys and grown up with them all the way. We've grown up with them. We haven't put them down. and we're still playing with them. So like, yeah, it's I'm kind of really glad we had this little chat and debate. The last thing I will talk about, and I'll throw out there, is kind of related to all this, and it's the fact that, you know, related to how healthy is the industry. HasLab, let's throw that out there quickly. 3 HasLabs running simultaneously. Is that more of Hasbro trying to, you know, improve maybe end of year sales, or is it a sign of, you know, how strong the collector community is, or does it again reflect back poorly when you look at some of the numbers that we're dealing with at the moment currently?
Yeah, I think that they are kind of putting it in there. Right. Thanks for the loaded question. I think that they are kind of doing this right at the end of the year to intentionally try to get a little bit more cash on their balance sheet so that, you know, they can have a better fourth quarter report. Yes, I think that is true.
But also,
I think
you could say that's probably always on their mind, isn't it? That's not necessarily just because of now, but that's probably something they're always thinking of as a corporation, right?
Right. And 2020 and 2021 have been pre-order heavy.
Yeah. Very
pre-order heavy, with longer wait times in order to get those toys.
Flashes Adam's document on screen.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And my document that I'm terrible at keeping up at. And then you just get a package, and we were talking about it yesterday. You'll get a package in the mail and you'll be excited and open it up, and it's like, oh, I already have this. I ordered it from another site. Because it's confusing. You end up ordering things multiple places because you don't know which one's actually going to deliver. And then they both deliver just great lengths of time apart. Or I forget to cancel an order because I find it in the store and I don't want to wait another 8 months. So it's been a very confusing year. And I think that this is just a little more of that, with knowing that a HasLab was always going to be something that is going to have a long lead time. You know, that's just the nature of what those are. We never expect those to come in. You know, you're not going to order a HasLab and have it show up in 3 months. That's not ever going to happen. Just quickly,
while the thoughts on my mind, Pat, do you and Adam, do you think that Hasbro have and toy companies have tried to, like, or not saturate, but kind of get as much stuff on the development go as possible, so that you don't feel the wait times? You know what I mean? So like at some point you're going to be regularly getting things coming through the post to the point where it fills the gaps of the lead time for the next thing. Do you think that's what they've tried to do here? To
an extent. I mean, to circle back to something we talked about earlier with all the like secondary peripheral non-toy merchandise, I think part of the reason why we go after that stuff so hard is because we have so many things on pre-order. You can't find the actual figures, the thing you want at retail, so you'll just take anything you can get. I mean, the list that Pat is talking about, we've all had this discussion where we're all getting stuff we forgot about, and I finally got organized and started writing down by date and website and price and, you know, what was paid for and what's not charged, because I mean, hundreds of things on pre-order. I think that this is another fundamental difference of the industry right now. We used to look at something like Toy Fair, which was this once a year event where you got this huge info dump, and then throughout the rest of the year, you'd get it sprinkled out to you. And now it's like Fan First Friday, Marvel Monday, Yojo June, San Diego, Toy Fair, New York Comic Con. And so I think that there's this endless saturation to keep it on your mind all year long, where instead of getting, 100 things at once, you're getting one a week. And it makes it feel much bigger and more overwhelming and kind of almost disorienting in a way.
Do you think that's a tactic as well? Do you think they're employing that so that we get a little bit lost in what we're ordering? Because I've definitely been caught out recently where it's like, oh wow, I need to rein it in because this is getting a little bit out of hand because I want everything. That's the thing. Like the turtle stuff, NECA, Super 7, Playmates, and keep going, because there's every company has turtles going, Figuarts and so on and so forth. And I thought a couple of years ago it was bad when it was like DreamX and Mondo and Playmates and NECA. I thought that was a seriously ridiculous point where it was like too much going on. But now, and the other sad thing about it is that the turtle stuff is so bloody good. Like, it's so good across the board that it's hard to go pick and choose. But like, you know, like there's that aspect too, isn't there?
Well, turtles are the most toyetic toy line of all time, so I can totally see why that effect happens. But yeah, I think another thing with the pre-ordering issue right now is that it's much easier when you get like, oh, here's 6 new figures. And you're like, oh, I want all of those. Add to cart. Don't think about it. You're not being charged yet. Versus if you actually went to a store and you found an entire wave on a peg to be like, this is a lot of money, or this is a lot of stuff that I'm physically picking up right now. You know, like I think that when you don't have the mental and you don't have the physical weight of the object, and it's just like, oh, that's an appealing looking item. Click here. You know, I think that's how you get lost in it.
It just builds up, doesn't it? It just builds up to the point of like, and then all of a sudden. Well, that's the other thing as well. There's no care for when the pre-orders deliver. And when they deliver, you get charged. Or when they start to send them out, you start getting charged. So all of a sudden, there'll be like a $500, $600, $700, $800 bill going out because everything's hitting at once. And it's like, no one's really doing it on purpose. It's just how the things land. Like you won't, there'll be nothing for a long period of time. And then bang, you're hit with like a huge bill. So yeah, I think that this also, I suppose, like, will probably lead me to say that it's probably a good idea to do what you guys are doing, and that is to kind of itemize what you're actually putting out there, because it can get to the point where you're, oh my god, I'm kind of screwed now.
And I really don't think that that's devious on the part of the toy company. Like, I don't think that this is a nefarious plan. I think that there has been so many production hiccups between COVID delays and now the dock issues that, and obviously all kinds of, inflation on raw materials costs, oil shortages, you name it. I mean, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong over the last 2 years. That I think they're doing the exact same thing we're doing. They're trying to keep their head above water. They're trying to stay on a regular development cycle and keep product going. But we're friends with a lot of people that work at toy companies. And I mean, they would tell you that a lot of companies are actually holding things back because they don't want to overwhelm, but they can't just stop working either. So the avenues that they normally would have had to put this stuff out in a timely and organized manner is long out the window now. So I think everybody's just doing the best they can.
A good example of that is the Bat and the Alley Viper recently, because I would say that had it not been for probably a little bit of fan pressure or the feeling that Hasbro probably would have had thinking about, well, if we show the Python Patrol Bat, people know the other bat's coming, we've got to show something. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's an element of them thinking about that. Do you think fan pressure comes into that as well, Pat?
You kind of lost me because I'm trying to think about how all this ties back into HasLab.
Actually, I tell you what.
Rephrase that if you don't mind.
Well, I won't. I'm not even going to ask you that question. I'm going to say, going back and finish your thought that we interrupted you on about 10 minutes ago, because I think we interrupted you and I cut you off, and then we started talking about something completely different.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that as far as the HasLabs go, having 3 of them running at the same time is something that we haven't seen before. So I do think that they're kind of stacking them, but I don't really think that the Ghostbusters one is a horrible overlap with the other 2, because that almost feels more like it's out there for the cosplaying crowd, which a lot of people who cosplay are not people who necessarily buy a ton of toys. They are people who are enjoying the property in a very different way than what some of us do. And I'm sure that's not true of everybody.
Well, there's one guy there that probably disagree with you. It crosses over for you, Adam, doesn't it?
Yeah, the streams cross for sure.
But you're one person.
But there's a lot of people who are not buying toys that will buy this. Is my point. And I think that that's reflected in the number of backers actually right now.
Absolutely.
Because as I look at it, the Proton Pack has 12,132 backers. The Rancor has 4,968, and the Sky Striker has 5,895.
I'm really surprised that the Rancor hasn't increased a bit since the reveal of the Keeper, which I thought was like a no-brainer anyway. So I'm surprised that that wasn't on their minds right from the off.
The thing that kind of surprised me about the Keeper is that I kind of thought that if they were releasing the Rancor, maybe they didn't want to just give away the Keeper because they felt that was something that they could sell as an add-on to the price of the Rancor rather than just a bonus that you get.
I would be inclined to agree with you had they not started development on it now.
Exactly. So what I assumed as soon as they were like, we have the Rancor, I thought, well, they also have a Keeper, sitting in the wings, ready to go, that they've already sculpted so that it can hit retail right about the time that maybe the Rancor will be shipping, or whenever everybody's excited about buying the Rancor, maybe the pre-order will go up for the Keeper. So I kind of thought that they had all that done. So I'm really surprised that they made that announcement without anything to show. That really genuinely surprised me.
Well, they did show that picture of him.
Did they?
Well, I was joking. They did show that. They did show that picture of him from the movie. But yeah, there's literally no. Yeah, I got Pat looking. He's like looking to see where is it. No, they haven't got anything, mate. Yeah, that was a surprise. The Sky Striker. Let's real quick now because we're going to be wrapping up soon. But Sky Striker, Adam, do you think it's going to make it?
Yes. I think it's going to fund. I don't know that it's going to hit. Well, actually, I do know. I don't think it's going to hit the 18,000. I mean, I hope that doesn't sound pessimistic, but I just don't think that. I think there are more than 18,000 G.I. Joe fans in the world, clearly, but I don't know that the brand awareness, is particularly for HasLab right now, is high enough for something that ambitious. Whereas obviously Ghostbusters has a theatrical movie right now that's doing huge numbers, and obviously Star Wars, Book of Boba Fett is right around the corner. So like these two media properties are propelled by something that G.I. Joe doesn't really have. I mean, obviously we just had the Snake Eyes movie, but that has no connection whatsoever to the HasLab project. So there's not going to be any crossover there. So yeah, I think it can hit I think it'll hit the base sales number. I think you'll get the actual playing in the two figures, but beyond that, the stretch goals, that's a real toss up at the moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of really hoping that we get those figures, even if say it kind of funds. I really hope that they can find a way to bring those figures out in the future in some other way, shape, or form, because I think it'd be really cool to have them. I know the Night Force Ripcord's a little bit kind of out there in terms of a bit random. But, Pilot Scarlet's really cool as well. I kind of like that idea. But the pit crew, man, I think that would be a really dope 2-pack just to have in, sold in some other way, shape or form. Maybe with some other HasLab, you reckon they could do, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I'm hinting, but
something that we notice is being specifically skirted around ever verbalizing.
It's the flag, guys, for God's sake. We're talking about the flag, yeah. The biggest swear word in the G.I. Joe fandom in it now. Anyway, right. Well, I guess, we've discussed this. We could keep going. That's the thing. Go on, Pat. Go on, say some stuff.
I was just going to say that I was curious what you guys think about any possibility of the deadline being extended, because we have a couple of things going kind of against that. I think that they probably do want this on their balance sheet for the end of the year, and that's probably going to prevent it from being extended. And I looked up yesterday just so that I had it on the top of my head, but it's kind of hard to find the exact information. I believe that Unicron, with roughly a week left, was sitting somewhere under what the funding is so far for the Sky Striker, somewhere around 5,500 backers with a week left. And there was New York Comic-Con happening. And so they said, well, because Comic-Con is happening, we're going to extend it for about 5 weeks. And here you have the Sky Striker happening, and Christmas is coming, which is arguably a bigger way of taking our money away than New York Comic-Con.
It's a bigger convention than New York Comic-Con, isn't it? Christmas.
Yeah, it's
Christmas
kind of a bigger deal than New York Comic-Con. But the Sky Striker doesn't seem to be getting extended in any way. And the numbers are also very different as far as goals go from Unicron. Unicron's, I think, target goal was 8,000 backers. Skystriker's target goal is 10,000. And that's a little bit understandable because Unicron costs a lot more than the Skystriker does. But I think the Unicron landed somewhere beyond 10,000 backers in the end.
It did.
With the Skystriker, we want those stretch goals to go all the way out to 18,000. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from. I mean, we've got to dangle the carrot maybe a little closer or give us more time to get there.
Stop dangling your carrot on screen, Pat. Yeah, I will say, full disclosure, I'll be speaking to Emily from Hasbro tomorrow. So this will be going out tonight, hopefully. Tomorrow I'll be having a little interview with Emily from the marketing team at Hasbro, G.I. Joe brand marketing team. And I'll be asking all sorts of questions about the HasLab Skystriker. And that will be going out, obviously, before the end of the campaign. It may turn out, I don't know. I don't have any information right now. But, you know, they may be extending it. I could see it being extended, honestly, beyond Christmas. I could just see that happening. It just seems like it sort of needs it at the moment because it is quite low in the backer count. And I think personally, they want it to not just fund, but they want to go beyond and they want to get the other things sorted for us. So, you know, I do think that is definitely on their minds.
I hope so.
Sorry, this is a real toss-up for me because I feel like to some degree you don't want to ever take away the FOMO. You know, if you give people the impression that, oh, if we just hold out, you know, and give poor numbers, we'll just keep extending. And, you know, you can't do that because once people get conditioned, it's like a store that runs a sale every week. You'll never pay full price again. So I feel like they need to stick with the plan and it just needs to be incentivized. And I think that if we don't get the stretch goals right now, we just have to find another way to get them through some other avenue. But I feel like people just need to rally. And I also think there's a lot of, and I've seen this with all three, you know, even the Proton Pack until it funded, there's this gloom and doom from the online, you know, oh, it's not going to fund day 2. And it's like, yes, it is. Like, if you've got 5,000 people on day 1, you're going to get 5,000 people on day 30. Like, that's just how this stuff goes. This is every Kickstarter ever.
I don't really think that the FOMO kicks in until the thing funds. I think that that's what we've seen with each of the HasLabs and with all the Kickstarters. Once it gets to that point where it definitely is funding, people don't want to be the person without one. And that's where the FOMO really helps to fund the thing. So if it had had a smaller target goal, we probably could have hit that 18,000.
Do you guys think the asking price is too high, or do you think the offering itself needed something additionally that's causing the stall?
I want to say there's like a weird balance that's being missed somewhere in that I feel like the price this is going to sound ridiculous, but either the backer numbers need to be lower or the price needs to be higher, or both in a weird way. I feel like I would, like, I know 230 is a lot for a Skystriker, but when you really go and look at what they've done to this thing, I understand where the money's gone. Like, you know, I'm sure that what I have been surprised is they haven't really done a lot of comparison stuff. They haven't really shown the original with the engineering model. And maybe that's because they don't want the engineering model to be the be-all and end-all of what we're looking at. Maybe they want to make some changes. Maybe there's other comments that are still being made on these things. This is still very early in the process, don't forget, as well. I would kind of say that I would be happy... I know it sounds crazy, but I'd be happy paying a little bit more for something even more premium. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it, like, and HasLab, when I look at HasLab, I paid, like, how much did I pay for Unicron? And it's wrapped now in tinsel with lights on it. How much did I pay, how much did I pay for Unicron? Ridiculous. But I was looking at it like, this thing is bloody huge and it's ridiculous, and I need that in my life. Like, you know, I want to be able to say the same for the Skystriker. I want it to be like, this is ridiculous and huge and vast and crazy and amazing, and I have to find a way to spend that much money on it. At the moment, I'm like 230. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's not, in terms of HasLabs, it's not.
Do you think if they would have put more figures across the entire thing and raised the price, that would have been the answer? Because right now, if it funds, the only thing that's really entirely new is that Wayne Ruffle figure. You know, the other ones are like updates of other stuff. And it's, as much as GI Joe is a vehicle toy line with figures, it became a figure toy line with vehicles. So I think they would have put more figures throughout the Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, throughout the HasLab
edit,
that maybe it would have funded a little bit faster. Like if there had been another 2 figures just in the base package that would have been, whatever. And even if they were repaints of things in that we've already seen, like even if it was another Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow that are in there somewhere, because obviously they've done Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, some other color, and had some other things be the stretch goals, and I'm talking about raising the price in order to pay for those toys as well. Maybe people would have been more excited. I don't know.
I also think as well, like when I saw that it was a Sky Striker, and I've said this on record before, I wasn't blown away. I wasn't like, I was kind of more like, oh, and then like I was kind of waiting for the information, like I'm like, well, explain to me then why it's a Sky Striker. And since then I've been more enthused about it, obviously because it's still pretty damn cool and it's got some amazing features on it, but it's still a Sky Striker to me. And so I'm looking at it thinking, if this was and my heart was, when we always talked about this stuff, it was play sets. That's what we really focused on when we talked about what would be a good G.I. Joe HasLab. For Classified, it was going to be mid-range vehicles. Sorry, can you hear that?
Yeah, it's fine though.
For Classified, it was going to be mid-range vehicles, but for modern 4-inch O-ring, whatever you want to, the smaller figures, it was, for me, it was play sets. I'm leaving that in. For me, it was play.
I'm trying That's one of the play sets we didn't get.
I'm trying to be censored here by by Hasbro. They're like, quick, get that train going, quick, stop him from talking.
They're giving the 21 bell salute to the play sets we didn't get.
And for me, it was like HQ. Like, that would have been amazing. Pit is it's difficult to do something like the Pit, but it'd be levels and it would be tall and it'd be huge and it would be obnoxious. And that would be perfect for HasLab. But also I think an HQ that had some like really good like wingspan on it, that also had tons of features, tons of cool rooms, little offices, little gym, little shooting range, little things that you see in like the comic, the cartoon. I think it's in the movie when they do that beautiful pan shot as they come. It's like after they've lost everyone in the Himalayas, they come back to, I think, Hawk's office, and there's this beautiful pan shot that you see like the runway. You see a couple of people on the tarmac, you see them coming into the building, and you're in Hawk's office and it's gorgeous. It's got like a really cool like map on the floor, like a globe spread out, and it's got cool stuff on the wall. And I'm just thinking, I would love just something that showed that homage, like that for me would have been absolutely outstanding. You could have had, little things like checkpoint alphas as like a checkpoint alpha as like a stretch goal, and that's that you put that on the outskirts of your base. And then you get some other thing, like maybe like a roll mat or something that's like, like that has, like the runway on it and stuff like that, so that you could have places to put these little extras. And just things like that I think would have been great opportunity for a HasLab. But then I kind of get into the mindset of, would that like go over the heads of a lot of people? Would it be too, it's not, I wouldn't even say it's a deep cut, but would that be not commercial enough? Not iconic enough for something like this? Is that where we're tripping up here because they feel like it needs to be like Hiss Tank based or Sky Striker based or Strike, something that like screams G.I. Joe from a vehicle standpoint?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but at this stage of my life, I am far more about displayability than I am playability. And so even though the Sky Striker has all these bells and whistles and landing gear and all this cool stuff, like I value something like the Flag or the Terradrome or the Defiant more, not for what they can do, but for the magnitude of them and the fact that you can cover them in hundreds of figures. If you'd had an HQ, and I kind of thought this when I saw the sail barge in person for the first time, just the intricacy of it, that you could open all these panels and there's all these little details. And I thought, what an amazing dio this would be for Joe, to have something at that scale that you could just have the whole thing adorned with figures. you can't really do that with a Sky Striker, and that's not. I mean, maybe you can hang it on the wall or from the ceiling or whatever, but if you're not actively playing with it, and I have to venture a guess that 99% of the people buying it won't be,
storage.
It doesn't have the same display, value that I feel like a playset would for diorama purposes or for storage capability.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, though, also the footprint of all these things that we're buying, these big, wide play sets, how many of those can we really feasibly display at the same time? I imagine some of that comes to mind. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to do a headquarters. It almost feels like they would be more tempted to do a larger Terrordrome or something that has that
self-containment unit kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a familiarity with also with like what you were saying, that people who are buying this may not gravitate toward a headquarters unless it really reminds them of a toy they had as a kid. So I think that you'd have to hit all those touch points of the original HQ, which isn't necessarily as celebrated of a thing as the Terrordrome or the Flag or the best G.I. Joe thing, which was the Defiant.
I thought you were going to say version 3 Snake Eyes then for a second. Which, by the way, will be one of our monthly topics in the future. We're going to be doing a whole episode where we talk about our favourite versions of characters. So hopefully, Adam, you'll come back.
Who else is going to be on that week, so I know who to pay?
Just me and you, I think, at the moment, Pat. It's just a weekly. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it's just a weekly.
No, I'm just
all right. I thought we were going to do a monthly.
No, we are. Adam, we'll get you involved, mate. You can jump on and talk about all your favorite Ninja Force versions of things.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about favorite versions. You might get a second appearance in a year out of me for that.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. We've signed him up for January of 2025 when we get to that episode. No, we'll be doing that definitely very soon. Guys, this has been great. I've had a really fun time just kind of shooting the breeze in a very structured way, with loaded questions left, right and centre. No, it's been great. And again, we could probably talk about this for days, honestly, because we were going to go an hour and it's already gone way beyond that. So thank you so much for jumping on, lads. Really appreciate it.
I feel like I just blinked and it went by.
I know.
I'm holding so many feelings.
so passionate.
There's only one way to solve this. More episodes.
Fight. Oh, right. Yeah, more episodes. Yeah, definitely.
That too.
Fight would work as well. Pat, mate, thanks for jumping on again, buddy. I'll be seeing you hopefully on Friday.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Okay, you're going to throw stuff at me like, what the hell? You get me on like twice a week now? What the hell is this? Appreciate it, mate. And again, Adam, thanks for jumping on, man. Really, it's great having you back on again.
Full Force viewers, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you guys at the next family reunion.
We'll easily get 50,000 views now, thanks to Adam's appearance.
That's the key, though. It's scarcity. It's that FOMO.
The fear of missing out.
I'm the living embodiment of HasLab, too much of a good thing.
What are you going to show off to us in the last day to make us buy you?
The club didn't repaint me 6 times over the last decade. That's why I still hold appeal.
And you're really expensive to hire as well, so that's...
Yeah, that too.
No, that's absolute pleasure, lads. Thank you so much. Guys, there you go. This is our first episode in the bag of the Full Force Monthly. Really just so I could get that Full Force Monthly thing off my head, which has been plaguing me ever since I started the Full Force Weekly. We've run out of comic ideas for Action Force, so we'll just have to think about it.
Daily coming?
Well, that's the news burst, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Can I be I'll be the co-host of Full Force Yearly. How's that?
That's the Christmas special.
The news burst sometimes feels like it's the Full Force Hourly.
Yeah.
Well, from my point of view, it's the Full Force every friggin' second of the day. But yeah, no, I love it. This is great. I'm glad we could add yet another series to the list of series we have, which is great. The more the merrier, I say. And yeah, again, just to kind of give all of you listeners and viewers a kind of like an idea, we want this to be kind of more of a podcasty type thing, but we wanted to do a video aspect of it as well. But really, this is for for listeners more than viewers. Unless you want to see our gorgeous faces, and showing up on again. Can I shout out Brian Sauer for doing an amazing job on Python Patrol graphics for this one? So we're adorned by the green.
Yeah, they look amazing. I can see them now. The box I'm in and everything.
Yeah, look, Pat's pointing at it. I'm going to use that, Pat, for your intro. That's going to be your intro, Pat. Just stroking the side of your...
Python Patrol.
Amazing. It's been an absolute blast. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. And I will shout out Hoardar as well. You can download the app. Links in the description. That is the sponsor of the show. And you can start posting your collections on the app and on the website. I've gone all corporate and it's gross, isn't it? But that's what I do. I like to tie all of my stuff together in a nice package, but with a lot of corporate bull attached to it. That brings us to the end of this episode in a brand new series for Full Force Monthly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-hosts, Patrick Notpicard Stewart, and of course Adam, I ain't afraid of no ghosts, Riches. See you next month. And as always, after 3, lads, 1, 2, 3.
Four.
Perfect. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.